Welcome to episode 152 of the Lone Hockey Podcast, where today we're going to be talking about some standouts from last night's matchup between the Rangers and the Penguins. And really good game from both sides, but the Rangers, they ended up coming out on top. And after trading Jacob Trouba to Anaheim, it was a really good showing from them, really good progress from them in this game. And I felt like they were scoring all across the board as well. They got some scoring and some involvement from their defense and also, of course, their offense as well. And so I feel like with the Rangers, you might see some things turn a little bit more, especially with trading away their captain now. That's going to light a bit of a spark underneath them and hopefully change their game in a positive way. But it's unfortunate the way situation and the way things played out with Truba and how that whole thing went down in terms of him. He was asked to figure out which team he wanted to go to, and if not, if he didn't want to go anywhere because of his no trade clause, then he would be waived. So it was kind of stonewalled in that sense. But at the same time, I felt like the Rangers, they played a really good game overall. We'll start with some standouts there. And Artemi Panarin had 2 goals and 1 assist for a 3-point game. He was their best player on the ice by far and just was standing out in terms of getting interior, his ability to create inside the dots with his shot and also his playmaking. I feel like with Panarin, he's a guy who's year in, year out been very consistent for the Rangers ever since being a free agent signing there, and a guy who's been very reliable as a goal scorer for them over the course of time, and a guy who's very reliable in many different situations for them as well. So with Panarin, he's a guy who's committed to the Rangers style of play and how they want to play, not only off the rush in terms of their attacking and how they like to play with speed there, but also in the ozone. I feel like Panarin's one of those guys who you always notice when he's on the ice. He's always looking to create something when he's on the ice, and he's always very dangerous when he's on the ice. So he has those many different elements of skill that allow him to really control play and be effective in that sense. Vinny Trocheck was really good in this game, a goal and 2 assists for 3 points, and a guy who's been rumored to be in trade rumors as of now. And I feel like most of this Rangers team has been in trade rumors for a little while now. But with Trocheck played a really good game. Playmaking was there, two-way play was there, shutdown ability was there. He had a lot of different qualities that were noticeable in his game that really translated. And really allowed him to be consistent throughout the game as a center, and he can be a really good play driver at the center position when necessary. I feel like obviously it's been a little bit more of a slower season for him thus far, but at the same time, when he's playing really well, he plays really well and he can produce offense in a variety of ways. So, and he can really defer to his line mates and pass off to his line mates effectively in those situations and really create lanes for his teammates effectively as well. And I feel like Trocheck had a really good game just as an all around playmaker and being able to generate offense. Alexi Lafreniere, 2 assists in this game. Passing ability was noticeable. I've always noticed Lafreniere more as a scorer than anything else, but his playmaking is really, really underrated when talking about his game. I feel like ever since his junior days and his midget days, he was always really prominent as a goal scorer and such, but just has the effortless ability to make plays on a dime with his passing, and his passing is so instinct based. So he's able to execute based on instinct so consistently. He's so smart with his reads, so smart with his passing, just smart overall in terms of how he wants to find lanes and process the situation in his advantage. And so he does a really good job at that. He's really skilled at that, and he's really effortless when it comes to his playmaking ability in an overall perspective. Braden Schneider, who was playing second pairing minutes with Keandre Miller in this game, had a really good game. I like his ability to get interior. I like his ability to get off the wall, get into space. I feel like that's something that's really evolved in his game in his NHL pro career thus far. And since playing in the AHL and to where he's now, I feel like getting interior is a big thing for him and being able to stay inside the dots when he has the puck and also without the puck in terms of positional play. So that way he can be in good spots to get pucks back and be in good spots to get retrieval situations with the puck. So Schneider had a really good game, and he's going to be in for an increased role. So this is one of the players that could really benefit from the Trouba trade is Braden Schneider, because you have Adam Fox as your top pairing right D. So Trouba is playing typically the second pairing right D slot. And now Braden Schneider is going to be relied upon as more of that guy who can play in the second pairing role consistently and play consistently inside the top 4 minute eating style defenseman as well. So I feel like he's going to be very consistent, and he's due for an increase in role. So it's really good timing on this as well. And then on Pittsburgh side, Michael Bunting, of course, I've noticed him every game I've watched Pittsburgh. I love his checking ability. I love his compete. Like I said before, I feel like in terms of the return Pittsburgh got in the Jake Gensel trade, I feel like getting Michael Bunting is still a really good asset, and you still get some prospects. You still got some draft picks out of that as well. I feel like that was a really underrated deal for them, and the quality that they got back was actually really well, and they did a really good job considering of the guy that they're trading away. They got some good prospects, and Michael Bunting has been very effective for them ever since. Guy who can play up and down their top six. He's more reliable as a top six winner than he is a middle six, top nine type guy. You want him playing inside the top six because he scores and he's able to make plays. He's a dual threat playmaker, a guy you need to put in that top six. Otherwise, he's not really going to produce and you kind of don't really notice him as much. And so I feel like playing him inside that top six role is only going to continue to allow him to get better over the course of time in Pittsburgh as well. Eric Carlson, I really liked his game. They used to play the Rangers a lot when he was in Ottawa, and he played really well against the Rangers there. And with Carlson, I felt like his puck movement was there, his ability to activate from the back end was there, his ability to be a F4 style player on the rush and be able to be a deactivation threat was really noticeable. His weak side D availability was noticeable on the rush and in zone offensively. A guy who's really underrated when it comes to instincts. And sometimes you forget about him because we know how good of a season he had a couple of years prior, but we've also known some of the struggles that have gone on with him in San Jose. And sometimes you haven't heard about him as much as a result of that. As a result of those struggles, he kind of fell off the map a little bit in terms of being a top defenseman. But now he looks good. He looks consistent offensively, I would say. Wouldn't necessarily say he looks consistent defensively, but more so on the offensive side and the rush side. He looks more consistent and looks more reliable as an offensive minded player. Of course, he's been that player for a very long time, dating back to his time in Ottawa. So he really hasn't changed much in that sense, but he's a guy who can be very reliable for Pittsburgh offensively in many different situations. Phil Tomasino, actually, I've really liked him ever since he was acquired from Nashville and has played a really good game for them. I feel like he's thrived more on the wing. He hasn't played much center. He's played a tad bit here and there, but I've noticed him much more on the wings. His speed up the wings. He's played a couple shifts in a couple games with Evgeny Malkin, and he looked really good on his wing. And I was really impressed with his ability to drive play, especially with a guy like Malkin. I know Tomasino is not necessarily going to be an elite play driver in terms of his role, but at the same time, he still has some individual play driving elements like his playmaking, his scoring, his ability to use his checking ability, and things along those lines that allow him to be able to control play in a distinct manner on occasion. So with Tomasino, he had a good game yesterday, and I was really impressed with him. Like I said before, I've liked his game ever since he was acquired, and I feel like it's tough to say what his role could consistently be in Pittsburgh, but with how he's been playing thus far, I feel like he's in for a consistent top nine role for at least a majority of this season thus far as well.